The invisible wall. Most people don't fail because they are incapable. They fail because one day, quietly, they decide they are finished growing. Arjun was 41 years old when he realized this truth. For nearly 2 decades, he had worked in the same government office, same desk, same routine. He wasn't miserable, but he wasn't alive either. Every morning, he drank the same tea, rode the same bus, and stared at the same computer screen. He used to dream of writing books, of learning psychology, of speaking on stage. But now those dreams felt childish, unrealistic, irresponsible. Whenever the thought returned, another voice crushed it immediately. You're too old to start again. You're not talented. People who succeed begin young, and so Arjun stopped trying before he even began. One evening, while watching his nephew learn to play the guitar, Arjun felt something break inside him. The boy made mistakes constantly, laughed at them, tried again, failed again, and still enjoyed every second. Arjun realized something painful. The child was learning more in 1 month than he had learned in the last 10 years. That night, Arjun asked himself a question that changed everything. When did I decide that learning was no longer for me? Chapter 2. The False Comfort of Certainty. Arjun had unknowingly built a prison out of certainty. He believed he knew who he was. He believed he knew what he could and couldn't do. He believed he had reached his limit. And those beliefs felt safe, comfortable, familiar. But comfort slowly turns into decay. He started searching online, desperate for answers. How to change your life after 40. How to learn new skills as an adult. How to escape mediocrity. The internet offered thousands of promises. Become successful in 30 days. Learn any skill in 1 weekend. Change your life instantly. Arjun tried. He bought courses, watched motivational videos until midnight, wrote plans that looked perfect on paper. But after 2 weeks, the energy faded. The old voice returned. See, you can't change. He wasn't failing because he lacked intelligence. He was failing because his mind was already closed. Chapter 3. The Idea That Changed Everything. One quiet Sunday morning, Arjun stumbled upon a small article written by a Japanese monk. The title was simple: Why Adults Stop Learning. The article quoted a Zen teaching. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. Arjun read that line again and again. The monk explained the idea of Shoshin, the beginner's mind, a mind free from assumptions, a mind free from ego, a mind that is not afraid to look foolish. Children learn faster not because their brains are better, but because their minds are open. Adults struggle not because they are incapable, but because they are full of conclusions. Arjun suddenly understood his real problem. He wasn't failing at learning. He was refusing to be a beginner. Chapter 4. The Path of Shuhari. Arjun decided to start again, not with ambition, but with humility. He chose one simple skill he had always wanted to learn: public speaking. Not to become famous, not to become rich, just to prove to himself that growth was still possible. He followed the Japanese concept of Shuhari. First came Shu, obey. He joined a local speaking club and followed their system exactly. No shortcuts, no ego. No, I already know this. He copied the structure, practiced the basics, accepted feedback without defense. At first, it was humiliating. He forgot words. His voice shook. His hands trembled. But for the first time in years, he felt something powerful. Curiosity instead of fear. After months, he entered adapt. He began developing his own style. He experimented with stories instead of memorized speeches. He learned what felt natural. Then came Rai, transcend. Speaking no longer felt like a performance. It felt like breathing. The rules were no longer instructions. They were instincts. Chapter 5. The Power of Kaizen. Arjun didn't transform overnight. He transformed 1% at a time. Every day, he practiced for just 15 minutes. Not intensely, not dramatically, just consistently. This was Kaizen, continuous improvement. Some days felt useless, some days felt boring. Some days he wanted to quit. But after 6 months, something unbelievable happened. A company invited him to speak at a small workshop, then another, then a school, then a community center. He wasn't famous, but he was growing, and growth changed everything. Chapter 6. The Return of Purpose. One evening, after finishing a speech, a young man approached Arjun and said, "I thought I was too old to change, but watching you, I feel like I still have time." That sentence shook Arjun deeply. He realized his true purpose wasn't speaking. It was proving that transformation has no age limit. This was his ikigai, his reason for being. To remind people that it is never too late to become a beginner again. He began teaching others what he had learned. Shoshin, stay open. Shuhari, follow, adapt, transcend. Kaizen, improve daily. Do walk the endless path of growth. Learning was no longer something he forced himself to do. Learning had become who he was. Chapter 7. The choice you must make. Right now, you stand exactly where Arjun once stood. You can keep believing the story that says, "I'm too old. I'm not talented. I missed my chance." Or you can choose a different truth. You don't know your limits. You have never tested them with an open mind. You have never allowed yourself to fail freely like a child again. The Japanese secret is not magic. It is courage. The courage to become a beginner. So here is your challenge. Choose one skill, not 10. Just one. For the next 90 days, approach it with Shoshin. No ego, only curiosity. Follow a proven path with Shu. No shortcuts. Improve daily with Kaizen, even if progress feels invisible. Stay on the lifelong journey of growth. Because the moment you stop learning, you stop living. And the moment you choose to become a beginner again, your life begins a second time. Chapter 8. The Resistance Phase. Transformation never begins with applause. It begins with resistance. As Arjun started changing, the world around him did not celebrate. Friends laughed gently, family worried quietly, colleagues whispered, "Why is he acting like a student again? At this age? What's wrong with being settled?" Every comment felt like a small stone added to his doubt. Some nights, Arjun almost quit, not because he was tired, but because he felt lonely in his growth. Everyone else seemed comfortable staying the same. He was the only one walking in the opposite direction. And that's when he understood something powerful. Growth feels uncomfortable not because it's wrong, but because it separates you from who you used to be. Chapter 9. The day he almost quit. One rainy evening, Arjun stood backstage before a presentation. His hands were shaking. His throat felt dry. Suddenly, the old voice returned louder than ever. "You don't belong here. You're pretending to be something you're not. You're embarrassing yourself." For the first time in 2 years, he wanted to run. Then he remembered something his mentor once told him. Fear is not a stop sign. It's a direction sign. So he stepped on stage anyway. His voice cracked in the first sentence. He forgot one line. He paused awkwardly. But something strange happened. The audience didn't judge him. They leaned in. They weren't listening to perfection. They were listening to honesty. That night, Arjun learned the deepest rule of growth. People don't connect to your confidence. They connect to your courage. Chapter 10. The second transformation. With time, Arjun realized his journey was no longer just about speaking. He had changed internally. Earlier, he avoided mistakes. Now, he hunted them. Earlier, he avoided looking foolish. Now, he welcomed it. Earlier, he protected his image. Now, he protected his curiosity. This was true Shoshin, not pretending to be humble, but genuinely being open. And then something unexpected happened. People started coming to him for guidance. Not because he was famous, not because he was rich, but because he represented something rare, a living example that reinvention is real. Chapter 11. The Student Becomes the Guide. One afternoon, a woman named Mira attended his workshop. She was 45, divorced, exhausted, convinced life had already chosen her fate. After the session, she stayed behind. "I want to learn," she said quietly. "But I'm scared I'll fail." Arjun smiled, not with confidence, with recognition. "I failed for 20 years, he replied. "Not because I tried and lost, but because I never tried at all." That day, Arjun began mentoring, not as a teacher, not as a guru, but as a fellow traveler on the same road. Chapter 12. The Science Behind the Change. As Arjun taught others, he studied deeper. He learned that neuroscience had already proven what Zen masters knew centuries ago. The brain never stops changing. It only stops when curiosity dies. Research showed people who believe they can grow activate more neural pathways. People who fear mistakes shut those pathways down. In simple words, your brain becomes what your mindset allows. Shoshin wasn't philosophy anymore. It was biology. Chapter 13. The New Identity. 2 years after he chose to change, Arjun stood in front of a mirror and barely recognized the man looking back. Not because he looked younger, but because he looked alive. He was no longer defined by his job, no longer limited by his past, no longer controlled by fear. He had become something far more powerful. A lifelong learner, not chasing success, but chasing growth. And growth kept bringing success naturally. Chapter 14. The lesson for you. Now the story turns toward you. You may not be Arjun, but you carry the same invisible chains. Chains made of, I can't, I'm too late, I'm not meant for this. These are not truths. They are habits of thought, and habits can be changed. The Japanese secret is simple, but brutal. To grow, you must die as who you were, not physically, mentally. Your old identity must step aside so your new self can arrive. Chapter 15. The Oath of the Beginner. So here is the oath Arjun teaches every student now. Say it silently if you want. I release the version of me that stopped learning. I accept that I know nothing, and that is my power. I choose curiosity over pride. I choose growth over comfort. I choose to become a beginner again. Because the moment you do this, life opens doors you never even saw before. Not because the world changed, but because you finally did. Chapter 16. The Quiet Victory. Success is loud on social media, but in real life, the greatest victories are silent. 3 years after Arjun began his journey, nothing about his life looked dramatic from the outside. He still lived in the same city, still wore simple clothes, still spoke gently, but inside, everything had changed. He woke up every morning not chasing money, not chasing status, but chasing growth. Every day he learned something new. Sometimes it was a book, sometimes a conversation, sometimes a mistake. And that is when he realized the deepest truth. The real reward of learning is not achievement. It is becoming someone who is never finished. Chapter 17. The moment of doubt returns. Then the strongest mindset is tested. One evening, after a long workshop tour, Arjun felt exhausted. He sat alone in his room and wondered, did I really change my life? Or did I just escape one routine and build another? That question haunted him. Then he opened an old notebook, the one he used before his transformation. Inside were sentences written by his past self. I feel stuck. I feel invisible. I feel like life is already over. Arjun closed the notebook slowly and smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because everything was alive. Growth does not remove struggle. It gives struggle meaning. Chapter 18. The Student Who Changed Him. One day, a 62-year-old man named Ramesh joined Arjun's learning circle. Ramesh had retired from his job. His children were grown. His days were empty. I want to learn painting, he said, but I feel foolish starting now. Arjun looked at him and replied, you're not foolish for starting now. You were only foolish for waiting so long. 6 months later, Ramesh held his first small art exhibition in a local library. Nothing fancy, just 12 paintings, but the pride in his eyes was priceless. That day, Arjun learned something new himself. Sometimes you don't change lives by teaching skills. You change lives by giving people permission to begin. Chapter 19. The Legacy of the Beginner. Arjun slowly built a small community, not a company, not a brand, not an empire. A movement of people who refused to accept mental retirement. Teachers learning design, accountants learning music, homemakers learning coding, retirees learning photography. None of them were trying to become famous. They were trying to become alive again. They called themselves the Circle of Beginners. Their rule was simple. No one here is an expert. We are all students, forever. Chapter 20. The Truth About Fear. During one session, a young woman asked Arjun, "Will the fear ever go away?" Arjun answered honestly, "No, fear never disappears, but it stops being the driver. It becomes the passenger." He explained, "Fear means you care. Fear means you are stepping into the unknown. Fear means growth is happening. The problem is not fear. The problem is obeying it. And every time you move despite fear, your identity shifts a little more." Chapter 21. The Final Lesson. Years later, Arjun stood on a stage at a large learning conference, not as a celebrity, not as a guru, but as a man who once believed he was finished. He said only one thing that day: "You don't need more motivation. You don't need more talent. You don't need more time. You only need to remove one lie, the lie that says you already know who you are. Because the moment you accept that you are still becoming, your life becomes an adventure again." Chapter 22. Your turn begins now, and now the story finally reaches you, not as a listener, not as a reader, but as the next character in this journey. Right now, you are standing at the same door Arjun once stood before. Behind you is comfort. In front of you is growth. Behind you is certainty. In front of you is possibility. You don't need to change your whole life today. Just change one sentence in your mind. From "I can't learn this" to "I am willing to begin." That single sentence has the power to rewrite your future. Chapter 23. The 90-Day Promise. So make a promise, not to the world, but to yourself. For the next 90 days, be a beginner. Be clumsy, be slow. Be curious, be brave. Learn one skill, just one, not to impress others, but to remind yourself that you are not done. Chapter 24. The Eternal Student. One day, long from now, someone will ask you, "How did you change your life?" And you will not talk about luck, or timing, or opportunity. You will say something simple: "I became a beginner again." And that will be your greatest achievement. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and comment.